Spring always brings secret gifts as it arrives. All we have to do is to pause for a moment and observe. I was happy to see the lawn carpeted by wild violas. They may be small and common, but if you stop to consider them closer, you'll find a sea of beautiful flowers right beneath your feet. Certainly bees and other pollinators appreciate such valuable gift. I also had another gift to be thankful for growing in my newest garden bed. All I have to say is that this bed has been an absolute success up until now, at least. Everything germinated. It's been about 15 days since I've sown things directly, which I usually don't, but this time because of time I had to, and everything is here. I have the arugula, the kale, the Swiss chard is already coming up, and even the parsley, which usually takes a long time, perhaps even 3 weeks, it's already germinating. So that's a good thing. And the mulch here is still doing a great job without clumping. I had time to dry it before heavy rain came. So perfect system up until now. Let's see how it progresses. We had a consistent schedule of temperatures in the 60s and 70s, as well as constant moisture that contributed to the phenomenal germination rate. The mulch helped ease any stress from possible drying out during the sunny spring days. What this actually means is that gardening can be very simple. You do not need complicated setups and crazy methods. Sometimes just putting the seed in the ground is all you really need. So I invite you to just drop everything, go outside, plant a seed, or at least in a container if you can. I had high hopes for this new garden bed, despite having started the greens a bit later than usual. As much as I like the control from the plate germination method, starting seeds indoors, if you are able to master the art of direct seeding, it will save you a lot of time and trouble. Experimenting is key. Only by defying conventions can we innovate. Experience and tradition is important only if supported by constant experimentation. If I wanted to expand my budding garden beyond my first raised bed, I would need to continue clearing some ground and allowing more sun to hit the land. There was a growing tree that I needed to clear before it grew too big to do so. As I said before, it's just one day at a time. I'll take this tree today as the challenge. It's not going to be easy. Hopefully I can finish it in one day, but if I can't, that's fine. I'll be climbing it this time. I think it has enough limbs where I can go up and start cutting it from the top. I went about climbing this tree while the neighboring train rumbled through the valley. My goal was to cut this tree slowly from the top down, limb by limb. Usually we should be working to plant more trees and not cut more trees down. But at times you have to think of the cost benefit and how beneficial it will be to not have the tree here. Yes, the tree does provide several important services like cleaning the water, holding onto the soil, cleaning the air, etc. But at the same time, because it's taking prime real estate here, where I can be planting more garden plants and more vegetables, it's going to be more sustainable for me to plant them than to just go to the store. It makes sense to remove this tree. Beside this tree, it's not a big old tree, and it's kind of dying. There are several dead branches, so this is going to go. Some of the other trees are going to stay. It's all about being selective, and I also want this place to be a beautiful garden, so I have to make some hard choices. Maybe not so hard choices, but cutting a tree, should be planting more. I will plant more. I have planted more. This tree certainly had issues. Besides having a dead part close to the base, signaling future problems, it was also close to the road. Sick trees prone to breaking should not be kept close to the road where they can become a danger during storms. Also, it happened to be growing beneath power lines. That would for sure become an issue in just a couple of years. I doubt anybody had actually planted this tree intentionally.
It had most likely grown by itself from seed carried by the wind. So this was not really a choice, it was more of a preventive measure. I'll be back right after this commercial. If you're loving the video and would like to help me produce more, you can purchase an original painting from my Etsy shop or support me through Patreon. Your direct support is the reason why I have been able to produce 2 episodes a week during the spring, so thank you.
So I wised up and got a ladder. There's no reason not to. As romantic as it may sound, like the idea of going up a tree without a ladder and being able to cut it with your own hands, you have to be practical. The problem is your feet starts to hurt after a while as it's wedged onto tree limbs. So after cutting a few limbs, I'm going with the high tech. Well, not that high tech. You know.
Ever since I was a child, I've liked trees. Because I grew up in the city, I can't say I've climbed many of them, but the few I could, I did. A treehouse was a childhood dream, especially as it was reinforced by watching American kids show from the 80s, like Punky Brewster. The idyllic and romantic notion of having a hideout amongst the canopy is fodder for a child's imagination. For the few trees we had access to, most of them rather short, which in hindsight was good for our safety, we used to make believe it was a ship going through ocean storms or a rocket headed to the moon and beyond. This stationary skeleton of limbs, sticks, and leaves would carry us through journeys only limited by our collective imagination. I suppose jungle gyms do the same when no trees are around. The name itself is a testament to its arboreal origin, but nothing really beats a rope swing hung from a tree branch near a bank, or even hiding underneath a mulberry tree, eating our way out with stained lips and clothes. I've always lived in places where trees were common, despite our access to them being limited by walls in the city. São Paulo is in a tropical climate, and Maryland is in the beautifully green temperate zone of the eastern seaboard. I can't see myself living in a treeless place like the desert, or pure grasslands. I remember from childhood one tree in particular. It grew in front of my childhood home in São Paulo. It had grown bigger than it was supposed to, and had started to crack the concrete sidewalk around it. One day, my father cut it down. As I returned from school and saw the empty space for the first time, it bothered me. It looked wrong and too bright. Today, I learned to value sun exposure because of gardening. Trees are wonderful and we must plant more, but if you have the sun-exposed space, take advantage of it and plant vegetables. What saddened me the most is seeing acres of sunny, useless lawns in the suburbs not being used to grow food. As for this tree, I was realizing that cutting it as it flowered was not ideal.
I don't think that cutting the tree in the height of pollen season was one of my brightest ideas, especially as it's fully blue. Being around all that pollen was just driving my allergies crazy. But I gotta finish what I started. It's just incredible how much biomass a tree produces. When it's up there and it's all compact and neat, doesn't seem like much. Once you put it on the ground and you see all the branches, it's a lot. And there aren't even leaves yet here, so I'm not seeing the full potential of organic matter that a single tree produces. I will probably continue this some other day. I've gotten most of the branches out. Then I'll have to cut the trunk slowly. That's going to be a little bit of work, but not as exciting. So once it's done, I'll show you the final result.
Indeed, I had decided to trim up this tree during early spring precisely because it is always easier to cut down branches before they have leafed out. Cutting it during summer would have meant a lot more biomass volume and weight to get rid of. It would also be harder to see the trunk structure through the leaves to know where it was safe to rest the ladder against or what branch to cut out first. Summer would have meant hot temperatures and possible sunburns. My plan was to grow sun-loving flowering bushes in this bank, such as roses, bringing in cheerful low-maintenance color to my front yard. Of course, there was still a lot to do, and I knew it would take me a long time to get everything just right, but this was a great start.